So let's talk about this personal vision statement for a few minutes. Start with this. Where do you see yourselves, you guys, professionally, in the next year, in the next 3 years, in the next 5 years? And when I mean, where do you see yourselves, I don't mean necessarily geographically, although that could be a part of it, but really more so I'm really talking about what stage of life do you think you're going to be in the next 1, 3, 5 years? Are you going to be in grad school? Are you going to be starting out your careers? If you're starting out your careers, what kind of work do you think that you want to be doing? Um, you know, are you going to be married? Will you be engaged? You think you might be a parent already? Where do you see yourselves in life, both professionally and just in general, in the next, like I say, 1, 3, 5 years? And then the second question that you could also ask yourself is, in a world like the one that we're living in today, that's so difficult, with so many problems, political, social, climate change, economic, so many different issues that are competing for people's attention and time and effort and work. Is there an area that you particularly would like to have some hand in addressing? It could start right away. It could start down the road. It could be just something that you feel like you've got a calling, let's call it. You've got a calling to do something in a particular area in your lifetime. The answers to these questions are your personal vision statement. Okay. So in that part of the assignment that you've got for your personal branding this week, as you think through these kind of weighty questions, and I'll admit they're not so easy, I want you to get it down to a point where you feel like you can write a few sentences about where you see yourself, particularly in the next 1, 3, 5 years, okay? Now, the next piece is our values, meaning what do we stand for? What do we want to be known as somebody who stands for certain things, right? And this is a list of professional values, everything from acceptance in the top, left, to zeal in the bottom right, and all of those cool words in between. What I'd like for you to do here is to maybe come up with a list of, let's say you start with a list of 5. Now, narrowing all of those, because they all sound good, down to a list of 5 is already a challenge. And then once you've got it down to 5, can you further reduce the list? Can you reduce it down to 3? Could you even reduce it down to 1? And the idea here is, in your lives, you're going to find that life is a trade-off, And so the way that we proceed through life is to say sometimes we have to give up something that meant a lot to us in order to achieve something else that means even more. Yeah. So life is trade-offs. That's, the first piece, right? We can't have it all. For instance, if calmness is an important value for you, but responsibility is another one, well, responsibility and calmness often don't go hand in hand. If you're really responsible, there are going to be times where you're having to sweat it. Okay. So it impacts the kinds of jobs that you might be pursuing in the future. Being a person who, values commitment and compassion if those are, I'm just choosing two words here off the list. Let's say it's commitment and compassion. If those are the two things that you most want your brand to represent, your personal brand to represent, then maybe working for a hospital or a nonprofit that has something to do with helping the old or the sick or children or people in third world countries could be the perfect sort of a career for you. But if commitment and compassion, particularly compassion, I think in this example, are important to you, then maybe choosing a career that focuses on success is not necessarily the career path for you. And when I say the word success, I'm really thinking about the way most people define success in our society, material success. Because certainly if compassion is your thing, and so you go to work in a third world country, that probably means that you've sacrificed material success. So life is trade-offs, and it impacts the kinds of jobs that we pursue. Now, another really big piece about values is, and this really ties back to the whole thing about your social footprint or your current social media presence online, is do the photos, do the posts, do the, your affiliations with things online match the things that you value or that you say you value right now? If you really value these certain things, but there's a disconnect in your social presence and what those values say you represent, then you're going to have to start addressing that as a challenge and something to clean up. Okay, that's just for you and your own personal brand. But from the perspective of your employers are thinking about what they can perceive who you are through your social media. And so what they're thinking is, if I hire so-and-so to represent us, but all I see is that so-and-so is a major party animal, let's just say, maybe they'll say, well, we're going to take a pass because we don't want our brand, our company, to be perceived out there in the industry as the party animal people. And so they're looking at you in the future, the you that'll be interviewing, as, is this guy somebody who represents who we want people to think we are? Okay, that's what that bullet point means about represent our employers. And this directly, ties into, are you the right cultural fit in the company that you want to go work for? If, when I think about Disney, for instance, Disney, for most of my lifetime has been, the clean cut, very conservative, very family oriented company. And they want their employees to represent that. I remember when I was in college and I went to try to go get a summer job working for Disney, I had pretty long hair in the day. And they told me, hey, we'd like to hire you, but you're going to have to cut your hair. Is that going to be a problem for you? Well, in those years, I was also playing in a rock and roll band, and my look was a part of the brand that I wanted to represent. I mean, I wanted my look to say something about who I was, and the longer hair made me look the part. So I wasn't willing to do that, which also goes back to life is trade-offs. And so what Disney was telling me was, the way that we see you right now doesn't match who we want to employ here in our company. You're not the right cultural fit for who we are. So if you go back again and look at yourselves and your presence online today, is there a match between where you want to go in your life in that 1, 3, 5 year, vision statement we just talked about, or not? Because if there's a disconnect, then you've got the obvious decision to make. Are you going to go forward in your life? Are you going to continue to pursue that 1, 3, 5 year plan? Well, if that's true, if that's what you want more than anything else, then you're going to have to make some changes now about what you're portraying yourself as online. And not just online, but really everywhere. Because when it comes time for you to ask people to vouch for you and be a personal reference, there's again a decision that they're going to have to make, meaning, well, I know John Doe as a certain kind of a person. So when they call and ask me about, hey, what do you know of John Doe? You're either asking them to vouch for you and you've been, super solid and you've been the person that you say you're going to be in the future, or you're not. So there's, again, a catch-22 possibly. I'm not saying that any of you guys currently are facing that. I'm saying that these are issues that people have to consider in personal branding. And if it so happens to fit your situation, then maybe you personally have something to think about. But I'm definitely not pointing any fingers. So ultimately then, our values, this list of attributes, this list of how we can describe people, needs to be communicated by everything that you publish online. Now, the next piece of developing a personal brand is determining your goals. Okay, now some of the things we've already talked about. Where do you want to work? How much money do you want to make? What industry do you want to be in? Where do you see yourself in 1, 3, 5 years? Those are not only your vision, those are also goals. But goals could also be more narrowly defined. They could be, I want to live in Southern California making $50,000 a year, or whatever is currently considered a good starting wage or salary level for a college grad. And you want to keep those in mind as you're also pursuing this job objective of yours in the future. Again, this is all about you taking your brand and then you selling your product in the future, which is you. And the good news is you only have to successfully sell that one time, or at least to one customer at a time. Over your life, obviously, you'll have lots of jobs, but you only have to sell it one at a time, okay? 6 is, what are your brand attributes? Meaning, if you say that these things here are who you are, then what should that look and sound like in your social media? If you say a big part of your value is learning, but then you say derogatory things about your college, or you hate to read, or you like to party, or something, those kinds of things are going to work against your positioning as somebody who's dedicated to learning. Okay. If you say that you're somebody who's really driven by the concept of liberty, but then you start going around endorsing the Taliban, for instance, there's probably a disconnect. Again, I'm not saying that you guys are, okay? You want to put together step 7, a SWOT analysis. Now, SWOT analysis, SWOT is an acronym which stands for strengths and weaknesses, opportunities and threats. The strengths and weaknesses are things about you personally. What are your strengths and what are your weaknesses? Your strengths might be you're super intelligent and you're super creative. But a weakness is you tend to be tardy and late and you're on your own schedule, but not necessarily the schedule that you were supposed to be on. Well, and you want to come up with a list of strengths and weaknesses, right? Now, all about you. Now we look at the other half of this, opportunities and threats, and this is about the world around you. The great thing about strengths and weaknesses is that we have it within ourselves to control those things. We can leverage our strengths and we can address our weaknesses and improve ourselves, okay? But opportunities and threats are things that are around you in the world that you can't really impact. Opportunities and threats could be, let's say that you're a graduating senior, and as Harvard Business Review said a number of months ago, this recession is expected to last a long time. That's a threat to your ability to get a job right away after graduating. Well, if that's a threat, then what are opportunities? If that's something that you know is a threat? Well, an opportunity could be, why not stay in school and instead of trying to swim upstream, finding a job in a time where jobs are hard to come by, instead go back to school, go to grad school and wait it out so that when you start looking in 2 years after you've completed your grad degree, your MBA or whatever it is you might want to study, then you're in a position to do that because you have leveraged your strengths, meaning you were always a great student, you're super bright and capable in that regard. So you took the opportunity, grad school, which was always out there, to circumvent or to outflank the threat. And that would be a strategy that you could follow in terms of, how do you go about building a career in a time of a recession, okay? Step 8, determine your competition. And before I go to this, I want to make sure that you guys are all clear that this is not only a strategy that we use to pursue a job or a career and create a personal brand. These steps that we've been going through are the same exact steps, conducted obviously differently, for when a company wants to go out and create a new brand in the marketplace, or when they've got brands and they're managing them to build the equity in the brand, okay? So determining your competition. So you're thinking to yourselves, well, who's my competition? Well, let me show you who your competition actually is. You guys, this is your competition. Find yourself in here and then look at everybody else and then project yourself onto campus and think about all those people. And then think about all of the college students that are going to be graduating in the next couple of years here in Southern California, or in California, or in the Western region, or in the United States. But even more profoundly, because today we're really dealing with a global market, in the world. That's your competition. So what does it mean? It means that as you're working through these thoughts in here, thinking about your social presence and what you portray yourself as all the time, and you think about the opportunities, realize that, these people here are looking at predominantly the same opportunities that you are, and start thinking to yourselves what all brands have to think about, which is, how do I differentiate? Do you remember that from your earlier marketing classes? Differentiation. And as a reminder, differentiation is all about, how does a company take a product and create something unique in that product so that it stands out from the crowd? And the way that you guys should be doing this would be, are there volunteer opportunities that would help you in your future career? Are there internships that you guys could be, pursuing right now? Are there people that you should be networking with so that you've built a relationship within the industry that you might be targeting even today? So that when it comes time, you've got some people in mind that you can go and communicate with, because this networking process is difficult and time consuming. And the best time in the world to do it is not when the clock starts ticking on graduation day, but is now, really. So think about all the things that you could be doing today that'll help you differentiate. Step 9 is identify 3 words that best describe you, your brand attributes. So I'm going back here now to this values list. Who are you? Choose maybe 3 of those, right? So words that define your personality, that's what the attributes are. What professional value you might offer prospective employers. You've got multiple skills, or you can speak multiple languages, or there's a lot of versatility in what you can do. Sure, you could be a great marketing person, but you know what? You might also be a great salesperson. Thinking about it in a little bit broader term, okay? And then it's the next step. We talked about setting goals. The purpose of a goal is to give us something specific and measurable that we can identify and say, that is where I'm heading first. Over the summer, my daughter and I drove from here in Southern California to Albany, New York, because she started a job there in June. She just graduated from UC San Diego. So for us, we had staked the route out in terms of the first night we'll have arrived in Denver, Colorado, okay? And the second night we will have arrived in St. Louis, Missouri. And by the third night, we will have arrived in Buffalo, New York. And then from Buffalo, it was a few hours drive south to Albany. That's one example of goals. Denver, goal 1, St. Louis, goal 2. And by the way, and this is something that you really also need to start considering, building in some what if situations into your planning. Because son of a gun, if it didn't happen, as my daughter and I were crossing the Rockies and we got on the other side and we basically rolled down the mountain and into Denver and then through Denver and passing on our way into Kansas, the engine on the car that we were driving basically blew up, okay? And we were stuck in Denver for another 2 days. And we had to buy a used car in Denver. That was nowhere in our plans. But the good news was we had enough cash with us. We had, we had cell phones. We could find out where are the hotels. We knew people in town. We were able to put together in the moment a plan that could work because we had the resources. So, we brought the right things with us just in case something happened. So be thinking about the what if type situations that might occur on your journey after you leave Whittier College and start proceeding down the road to your first big job. Okay. There is actually an assignment that I didn't give you guys to do because I don't want to totally cover you in homework, realizing that you guys have other classes besides mine. It would have been a personal audit of your online brand, meaning going through all of your social media platforms, wherever you have them, Snapchat, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, wherever, and reviewing all of your past posts, what you've said, the sort of pictures you've been posting, the kinds of things that you've liked or followed or shared. And ask yourself, is that the me that I want people to know me as? Okay. Let me call that a personal audit. Now, I didn't give it to you guys as a homework assignment. Again, I had you focus on something else that I thought was maybe more important. But this is something that I would still suggest that when you get the time, you definitely do. So creating this personal brand on, online for yourself, your name is going to start appearing in search engines and social networks. Every time we do something on the internet and social, we're making a little mark on the World Wide Web. So if you were to go online to the Google search and type your name in the search bar and hit enter, then I would recommend that you do this too. See what comes up. I think you'll be surprised the sorts of things that might already be out there about you. And ask yourself, are these things, conducive or supportive of the brand that you want to represent or not? So type your name in the Google search. See what images appear next to your name. And then if there's issues that you need to address, start doing something to outweigh the negatives. I mean, one of the things that you could do is start deleting things off of your social sites. Now, that sounds great and like a great thing to do, but there's a problem with that. The problem is nothing ever truly vanishes from the internet. Once you've posted it, it's pretty much there forever because of the crawlers or the spiders or the bots. They all mean the same thing. It's that the search engines scan the entire World Wide Web. Google does it every 24 hours. And anytime that they notice something new that wasn't there before, they add it to their memory. They index it. So even if you've taken it off your page, it's already out there. It's already been indexed in the past. So the best that you can do is start outweighing the negatives with the positives. So uploading professional images of yourself are going to be a great way for you to start to reposition your brand in a more positive direction. Brand positioning, you guys have talked about in other marketing classes too. You probably have also talked the term repositioning, which is something that brands and companies and marketers do when they've kind of gotten themselves in a pigeonhole, perceived in one way, but they want the world to see them in another. So it could be that they start introducing different products that start over time convincing the world that they're different. They're not that old thing, they're this new thing. They could also go about creating new packaging. Still might be the same old shit in a different bag, but the world doesn't know that. Some people may figure it out. The best companies out there are going to repackage and product improve, which is what I'm suggesting that people who are in that position ought to be doing too. So where would we upload these photos? Well, obviously all of your social media pages, but especially in LinkedIn, which is the world's browser for anything professional, and Flickr and other places like that. And also start tagging your name. Add a tag that says John Doe, so that when people start looking for John Doe on the internet, which a lot of prospective employers might also do so they learn more about you, these things come up also. You could also set up a Google alert with your name to monitor and regulate mentions. okay? So while we're talking about that, let me show you what Google Alert looks like. I'll go to Google. This is Chrome. Okay, so my computer sees that I'm already logged in as Joe Hines, my personal email address there. And I've already set up alerts for my podcast, American Song. And then I called it American Song Podcast. And then I did my nickname and my full name. And so anytime there is some mention about any of these things on the internet, I'll get flagged. There'll be an alert about what people are saying, okay? I'm particularly interested in what people might be saying about this. So these actually all have the words American and song, or songs in America, or America, that's included in there. So nothing yet about my podcast, which I'm not terribly surprised about. I don't have the world's biggest audience for it yet, but it shows you how it works, okay? And I suggest that you do this so that you understand what kind of chatter there might be happening about you, just in case. And doing this while you're in a job search is a really great idea, yeah? Now let's see if I look at it again under my name. Okay, nothing there. And okay, nothing there, which I'm actually happy about. Okay, so there you go. Go back to my slides. So Google Alert. When we do all of these things, we're really working towards building our professional brand online. But for the balance of tonight's lecture, we're going to look specifically at LinkedIn as one place to do it, and how it's recommended that we do go about it. So LinkedIn, as you guys know, there's roughly 740 million users, almost 1 billion people on LinkedIn, in over 200 countries. This is the space where professionals from all careers and industries gather. I mean, anybody at work these days, you know, most people have a LinkedIn page, at least within the United States, okay? When we start thinking about crafting new content to go into social media, we want to think about what we call channel culture, meaning what are the kinds of behaviors that people normally engage in within a particular social media platform? How do they engage with each other? What does engagement look like? So within LinkedIn, people go here to get industry news, career training, expert advice, peer insights, recommendations, and then follow and interact with influencers in the professional world through the linking process, where they got the term LinkedIn. So this is one way that you could decide to portray yourself like this person here, only I would recommend that you not do that. You want to actually put yourself out there looking a whole lot more professional than that individual did. So find a professional photo or go get one done that's cropped to show your face clearly. You're going to be 7 times more likely to be found on LinkedIn with a photo. So Lynn here defines herself as a head communicator at Communicate, the top social media and marketing agency in London. This is her headline. This is also her brand positioning statement. This is how she wants other professionals who might come across her page to understand who she is. Okay, positioning statement. I'm sure you guys have learned that in a prior marketing course too. And this headline should be catchy and keyword rich. So marketing agency, communicator, and social media are her keywords that she carefully integrated into this headline. This is making her stand out in a unique way from a lot of other people who don't take the time to carefully market themselves appropriately, like we're talking about here. Now, if we look at the contact information, you want to add a professional email address and your company or personal Twitter account. Now, if you're saying, I don't have a job yet, so I'm not going to have a corporate email address, that's okay. You can still do something that sounds more professional, like, hot mama at, hotspace.com, or, whatever that might be, is definitely not the way to go. Okay. What you want, again, is something that just sounds like you're a business person who's ready to go to work. Okay. Football dude, or, race car fan, or whatever other thing that you might have is not it. It worked in your, all your life in high school and in college. If you're still doing this, you need to change it. You can also personalize your URL, meaning the website address for your LinkedIn page. To do that, you would, within LinkedIn, click on Edit Profile, and then Edit Contact Info, and come up with something that stands for you somehow. So mine is simple. It's just Joe, my middle initial G, and my last name Hines. So it's, LinkedIn, and there's a middle section there, in, and then, so it's linkedin.com/in/Joe G. Hines, which is, no one's going to find that ridiculous or silly or immature or unprofessional. It just is what it is, and it's who I am. So this is my social media. This is my LinkedIn profile page, okay? Carefully done, right? I mean, I created this image here that goes up in my banner with a bunch of icons that represent my career in marketing. So this is networking, this is, developing websites. This is strategy. This is social media. This would be blogs or vlogs or podcasts or whatever you want it to be. Obviously, I put my name in here, so I'm strongly branding who I am. And then, because, as I think I've mentioned to you guys before, I'm looking for a full-time position right now, I chose this shield that LinkedIn provides people if you request it. It's certainly an option you could choose that basically says, hey dudes, I'm looking for a job, hashtag open to work. And as a result of me putting this on here, I've recently been coming up in a number of recruiters' searches, and then getting contacted by these recruiters and doing some interviews and so on and so forth. Now, here's my headline: Marketing Professional, Delivering Excellence with Passion. So here's my values: excellence and passion. And, keywords for me would be marketing and professional, or even marketing professional. And then I've got some of my, strengths or skills. So branding, social media, content marketing, digital marketing, search engine marketing, and where I'm located. Notice I've got 2,300 followers and over 500 connections. I've actually got, over 2,000 connections. Okay, so this is my my page, and we'll go a little bit deeper into it so you can see what else you guys can do as you develop out your LinkedIn pages, since that's another assignment you have this week. And here it is, okay? So we've already gone through the top. This shows you, this shows you schools that I've been affiliated with. This was the interim position that I had last year at Cal State Channel Islands. This is where I got my MBA at Cal Poly Pomona. Top skills, event planning, marketing strategy, online advertising, and pay-per-click advertising. This is according to other people that have ranked me. If you wanted to see, some things that show off my work or my portfolio, there's a section in here under featured where I've included that. And I'm just clicking on see all. So these are several blogs that I've written. This is a podcast that I put together a year ago, actually 2 years ago, on the subject of social media. I based this podcast off of my lectures at Whittier, but the course is changed this year. So the content we're doing here is different than what I did here. But if you'd like to check it out, now you know how to find me on LinkedIn, and this will take you right to it. This is the link to my other podcast. These are some other video projects that I've done for clients in the past. This is a vlog that I had at one time. There's about 10 of these. These are some professional videos that I've done for clients. This is some graphic design work that I've done more recently, done it for, again, Channel Islands. So another thing that you can include, they also capture, your activities. So whenever I comment on other people's content, the things that they've posted, it shows up here. My experience shows up. Here's my position at Channel Islands. Here is a job I had in the food industry. Here's my position with my agency. This is my job at DeVry University, and so on and so forth. Then down here too, and you could be working on this now actually. These are posts or personal references, recommendations that other people have given me over time about my skills and what I've done for them. So actually this one was done most recently by the gentleman I reported to while I was at Channel Islands. So you guys could be currently now at, as you're building your LinkedIn pages, going to your professors or going to, managers that you might have at jobs that you currently hold and asking them to post some things that are strong about you and helping you to do that. Okay, this is a nice thing. So anyways, there's a bunch of different things you can say about this, but this is the way that I've branded myself on LinkedIn. So maybe again, if you want to come back and look at it later in the week, here's my URL for it, linkedin.com/in/Joe G. Hines. And that'll take you right to my page, okay? Let's go back to the slides. So things that you must include. A professional photo, right? Now, you can tell that the photo that I included in here was shot several years ago. You know what they say, hair today, gone tomorrow. But, your profile, so it's going to show up in this circle because that's just the format that LinkedIn uses. And this woman shows this nice skyline photo for hers. But like I say, you can create something that's much more custom for you, like what I did. This was done pretty easily in Photoshop. I don't know if any of you guys know Photoshop. Hit me up if you'd like a little bit of help there. The cover photo, you're expressing a professional identity, telling a professional story in a visual way. Now, if this woman, for instance, is a travel agent and her, and she sends people to great places like this, then maybe that's why she chose that photo. Or maybe she's an architect within a company that builds really huge, gorgeous buildings like that. Maybe that's why she chose it. There may be some really important personal reason to it. You want a cover story, a 20-second video that could be added to your user's profile picture. Now, that's another option. So in here, I haven't done that on mine, but it's an option that you guys could certainly do. You saw where I've got my videos, and on those videos, I'm more showing off, some of the stuff that I am expert in the field of marketing. The creator mode, showcasing up to 5 discussion topics. This is where I went in and started adding all of that personal information that I showed you, right? Where I showed you, let's go back to it, where I showed you, this stuff in here, my portfolio and other things. I was able to do this in creator mode. The headline, it's prime real estate. It's going to be looked at by most recruiters. So mine, again, marketing professional delivering excellence with passion. Okay, that's very consistent with what you see on my resume today. I have something very similar to that there. And so I've connected my brand in LinkedIn to the resume that people will receive. Now, I might want to go back there and do something even more targeted, even more niche oriented, because this is fairly general. But it says what you do and who you help, how you make your employers' lives, your customers' lives, clients' lives better. And it gives proof that you're credible, that you're authentic, or that you are what you say you are, which is really the reason why I put all of my portfolio or pieces of my portfolio onto my LinkedIn page. Because if I'm saying certain things are strengths of mine, then I want, the first thing somebody's going to think is, well, is that so? How do I know that's real? And so I've given them the proof points to address that issue. In my about, I've reflected all the attributes and keywords that I've said are important for my personal brand. In the featured section, that's where my portfolio is. I'm showing work samples, articles, videos, images, documents, anything that you can create today in your student lives that can go here is going to be particularly valuable to you in your search, particularly valuable to the recruiters who are out trying to help companies find, beginning stage managers. So what have you got that you could post? Have you written great research reports that you did stellar work in, or a great marketing plan for a prior class? Or, have you taken digital art classes and you've done some really nice design work? Or have you been featured in, the campus newspaper or in the community paper, or whatever it is that's going to help you tell your story, and it's up to you to tell whatever story that is. You need to try to find some proof points that support that. So you talk about your experience, that's your work history. At your stages, no one's expecting that you've got 10 years of management experience in any particular field or anything like that. What they're looking for from you guys is, does this person work hard? Is this person trainable? Is this person somebody that would represent our brand? Does this person have, are they able to work more or less independently? Do they have leadership skills that they, because every company needs leadership. Think about all the things that you've already developed over your lives. from the time that you were maybe in Little League and then in high school sports and then, later on still, all the part-time jobs that you've had, the things that you've done on campus, the courses that you've taken, the assignments that you've done, the projects that you've had, and start thinking creatively about, one, what do you want to say and convince other people you've got? And what things from your past best serve as those proof points that I was talking about? Those are the things that go into that experience section, and those are the things that go into the featured section. So, your education, any licenses or certifications that you might also have. Again, at your stages, maybe you don't have that. When I was in college, I was busy enough just getting my degree. Any volunteer experience. In particular, if you can get volunteer experience doing something in the field that you want to be working in the next 1, 3, 5 years, remember we talked about that as our personal vision statement. Start looking for ways to be doing that now, getting your feet in the water, even if you have to do it on an unpaid basis. Why? Because I just told you that everybody in your classrooms are your future competition, but not only at Whittier, in every college in the country, and more so, every college in the world, because it's a global marketplace, and lots of people are already doing those things. So it means that you have to do these things if you want to compete. What recommendations might you have? And then last, think about your accomplishments. What have you accomplished? Now, in my resume that I've got lots and lots of, hey, I've done this, I've done this, I've done this, I've done this, which tells a certain story about me. You guys have also had levels of achievement that are going to be appropriate for the beginning stage management jobs you guys are going to be pursuing very soon. And the expectation is not, hey, you went out and turned a company that was failing into, a top 10 growth company for the state of California. I mean, no one's expecting that. What they'd like to see is you made the dean's list every semester in college, or, you had a volunteer position and helped that organization achieve this. Things that are definitely achievable for you guys today. Because one, other people are doing it, but more important, where the opportunity is lots of people are not doing it. So standing out in ways that other people have not done is a feather in your cap. So, it could be courses and projects and volunteer activities and leadership positions and honors and awards. Do you speak multiple languages? Here in Southern California, over 40% of our population is Hispanic. Lots of students that I've taught in the past come from Hispanic households. You wouldn't believe how valuable the ability to speak English and Spanish and be bilingual is. There's lots of companies in the United States that are looking at Latin America, which is also referred to as emerging markets, saying we want to grow there. We need to start finding people that can help us get into that. So don't overlook the things that for you are just commonplace, because for lots of other people, it's exactly what they need. So that's in student life. But then future, let's say that you're at that 5-year stage in your personal vision statement that we talked about tonight. Have you produced anything that's been published? Have you created anything that's developed a patent? What kinds of promotions in your positions have you had across the years? What awards or recognition have you had, either in the community or at work? Because all of these things say a lot about you as an individual and a professional. So Twitter, the other thing we're going to briefly look at tonight, okay? Social networking platform, Twitter is, in which users share messages in up to 280 characters or fewer. Now, what does that 280 characters mean? Well, the reason that it started off as 200, as actually a lot fewer than that, it used to be closer to 160, is that the original idea for Twitter was it was going to be a social media thing that acted like an instant message or a text. So very, very short messages. And over time, as people started wanting to do more with Twitter, they got them to increase the character count. So there's that, okay? There's 353 million monthly users on Twitter. So Twitter is less than half the size of LinkedIn. So when you're thinking about where do you want to be focusing your attention, my suggestion is you put more emphasis into LinkedIn because there are simply more eyeballs there. That 353 million users a month are putting out 6,000 tweets per second. Can you imagine? 6,000 tweets a second. That's more than 500 million tweets per day. So what this also means, if I'm thinking about strengths and weaknesses and opportunities and threats, is that if you were to focus more time in Twitter, you've got a lot more competition on Twitter because there's simply that much more activity happening there. It's easier to stand out on LinkedIn because there's a lot less activity happening on LinkedIn by user by day. So anything that you are likely to put out there is more likely to be seen. I mean, imagine trying to have your tweet be, stand out in any way when it's in a context of 500 million tweets. The great thing that you can do with Twitter, that you can also do, however, with LinkedIn, is establish yourself as a thought leader, whether you're a student or a professional. And the ways that you do that are by blogging, for instance. And I'll show you an example of that in a moment. Blogging and vlogs, okay? And at your stage of, where you guys are in your lives, you could start blogging about smart things that students that are soon to be graduating should start to do to market themselves to the outside world. What does that do for you? It shows that you're already a pretty savvy marketer. And it also says that you understand how to use LinkedIn, and you're out there showing people who are in the position to possibly hire you that you know how to use social media, and that you know what thought leadership is, and that you actually are one. So if, professionalism was one of the values we looked at earlier, if that's one of the ones that you would have selected, and you're doing this kind of activity on Twitter or in LinkedIn, then your social presence, your social footprint, the mark that you're making in social about you is conducive to people understanding you the way you want them to understand you. You can have conversations and build relationships with other professionals in your industry, also in Twitter, because what you might do in Twitter is you say, hey, check out my new blog on, graduating students and the need for better marketing. That's something that might fit into 280 characters. And then you'd follow it up by adding a link to your blog on your LinkedIn page, so that anybody who's intrigued by your tweet is going to see it and click on that link and go right over there. So you're building more awareness for your blog by what you're doing in Twitter, even though you published your blog on LinkedIn. So within Twitter, just like we looked at LinkedIn a few minutes ago, let's take a look at how we create and optimize a profile there. You want to first make sure that your username is closely related to your first and last name, or represents something that defines your personal brand. So on Twitter, my handle on Twitter is @JoeHines16, because there are other Joe Hineses out there. So mine is just simply @JoeHines16, which is what was available for me. The recommendation is use the same cover photo and profile in Twitter that you've got on LinkedIn. In fact, if you think about it this way, anytime that you go out to buy a Coke, whether you buy it at a ballpark or 7-Eleven or the grocery store, that Coke always comes packaged in that red, so it could be a red cup, at the ballpark that has the little squiggle from Coke and that cursive writing that says Coca-Cola going up the side of the cup. If you're in the grocery store, it's the same overall look, but it's either in a bottle, which is going to be that fancy shaped Coke bottle, or it's going to be in a can that has the same red squiggle cursive writing on it. What I'm saying is brands become brands by always having a consistent delivery in terms of the product quality, in terms of the packaging, in terms of the general pricing. Everything is always the same, because if it changes from place to place, rather than reinforcing the same constant message all the time, which is how we brand things, we're just confusing the heck out of people, because it always changes and they don't know what it is. They don't know how to relate to it. Okay, so then you're going to create a professional bio. Now this bio is going to be short again, about 160 characters is fine, okay? What do you think should be included in your professional bio? Well, probably the same sorts of things that we talked about under LinkedIn, right? You want to position yourself as a professional. You probably want to lace in the things that you think are important keywords. And the way that we arrive at those important keywords is to start looking at Career Builder, Indeed, LinkedIn, for jobs that look like the jobs that you're going to want to occupy very soon, and seeing what terms are being used in those ads. And then taking those same terms and using them in your everything, in your social media, everywhere, consistently. Okay. So if we look at, this guy, Jeff Bullis, right? This is going to be Jeff's cover. They call these covers everywhere you go and find Jeff. Here's his professional photo. Now he's got a t-shirt on, but that's probably having a lot to do with his brand, because look here, he's doing a public speech or a speaking engagement. Is he wearing a tie? No, he's got an open collared shirt. So part of his brand is about presenting himself as a little bit more relatable, a little bit less formal than other people in business might be. And why? Because his brand is about educating and inspiring people. So education already has a slightly more relaxed look and feel to it than banking as a career path, for instance. And inspiring, well, in order to inspire people, they also need to be able to relate to you, because the thought is, if that person can achieve that, probably I can too. So there's that relatability factor. So maybe that open collared shirt has a lot to do with that relatability factor. Helping people to create, publish, and flourish. These are also values, right? Creating, flourishing, by designing life. So another thing of his is he wants to be known as somebody who designs life and business. So he's talking about a balanced life here for happiness and fulfillment. These words that he constructed for himself were very, very carefully selected, I'm certain, after a lot of thought went into how does he want to be seen and viewed and remembered? What kind of a mark does he want to make around him? How does he want other people to relate to him and understand who he is? Well, we can look at regular status updates. When you become an active participant on either LinkedIn or Twitter or anywhere you want to be active, a really important piece of this is consistency in your post schedule. Posting just once in a while randomly won't really help you build an audience. When you start posting quality content that people actually gain something from, they start to look forward to seeing it. They start to depend on it maybe as part of their day or week. You want to be treating this like a publication schedule for a major magazine, which always comes out on the same day of the week or the month. You want to share interesting content and opinions. This is how you also become that thought leader, just by, don't just go out there and, word vomit, okay? I want you guys, when you start posting things, thoughtful things, things that are going to lead people to perceive you in the way that you want. Interesting content and opinions about industry relevant topics. What industry? The industry you want to work in. Well, how do you know what to talk about if you're not in the industry yet? Aha, this is where reading comes in. You guys should all be reading industry journals, industry magazines, industry websites regularly now for lots of reasons. One, because you're priming the pump for when you actually get hired into that industry. You already have some experience, at least knowledge-wise, about what's been going on recently in the industry. But also, even just for the sake of getting the job, when you guys go out to start to interview, and they're going to say, well, tell me about you. That question, tell me about you, is tell me about you professionally. Well, I'm very interested in the XYZ industry. In fact, in particular, some of the things that really interest me today about it are boom, boom, boom. You give them a thorough answer that comes across with some planning in mind, some background in mind. You're brand positioning yourself as not the average college grad that's looking for that first job. Be careful of participating in discussions on controversial topics. And then finally, engage in professional discussions that have a lot to do with the things that you're aspiring to do with your career in the future. And believe me, I do, a lot of folks on the outside of academia look at you guys that are still learning in school enviously, because what you're learning today is more cutting edge, certainly, than the stuff that a lot of people who have been entrenched in their positions for years now have been able to keep current with. Which is why a lot of companies are, always desire to hire, college grads, recent grads, because you're bringing new lifeblood into that organization. Well, let me show you an example of something that I do with one of my clients frequently. On a monthly basis, And I'll tell you about this guy in a second. First, let me go to the page. Okay, let's look at Gene's. This is Gene Wood. Gene Wood is a client of mine. He's a consultant who helps his clients pursue their organization's interests in mainland China. Okay, and so we've been doing a vlog for Gene for the last maybe 4 or 5 months now. It's a new endeavor for us. I've been writing blogs for him for about 6 years, which always go on his website and often come up on his LinkedIn page. But recently we started doing vlogging. Now there's a nice value to this vlogging, which is more people would like to sit and watch a video than want to see a blog, because it's the way people prefer to digest information these days. They would much rather sit passively and watch than have to read something. And we're addressing that need with this. So mainland China today is a place that's full of lots and lots of regulations. It's a country that's undergoing a lot of change right now. And so organizations that start wanting to become more active in China have got to be very, very aware and respectful and working within the confines or the parameters of those regulations, or they're not going to be allowed to pursue their interests there. Okay. And so this is the most recent thing that we did for Gene. And in this vlog, he's talking about the importance of understanding these. So let me.
For checking in again. It's always good to be able to share with you. And I hope that some of what we're talking about can prove immensely helpful to you. What I wanted to share today is the importance of understanding the policies and regulations if you are going to work in mainland China. Now, every country has their distinctive policies and practices. And if nobody tells you you must work in another country, that's your choice. But if you are going to work there, it behooves us to know what those policies are. In the religious sector, for example, in 2017, there was a new set of policies. Frankly, when you look at them, they're remarkably similar to what existed before. But it's looking for the differences that is critical, because it's in those wording changes or addition of words that you understand guidance principles. I cannot stress strongly enough that your best money may be spent hiring a good consulting firm, regardless of what arena you're wishing to work in. Being close, as we often say, only counts in hand grenades and horseshoes. And that's true when understanding the policies in China. You should have the written copy of the policies. You should study it. You should mark it. If you're confused about what it says, then ask somebody who knows. Frankly, I found over my 20 plus years, it is always good to take that pamphlet, that book, whatever you have, depending on your area, go to the authorities and just ask them. I think they're honored by that, and you might as well get it straight from the horse's mouth. Ignorance is a dangerous game. And you could say, I didn't know, but we say here in the United States that ignorance is not an excuse for not following the law. And the same thing's true in the PRC. So this is just a simple reminder. Don't guess. And whatever you do, please don't try to sneak around when the gates open inside of China. It's just bad corporate policy. You're putting yourself at personal risk. And frankly, you aren't being a very good friend to the country of China if you try to do that. And so get good advice and counsel, follow it, go directly to the source if you have defining questions, get your answers. Be wise. We don't know what's going to happen in the world of international relations. There's some talk of a Cold War. We hope that if in fact there is, it never escalates beyond that. And it will be in everybody's best interest if we can find a path forward of friendship and mutual understanding. We'll talk to you again soon. I wish you well in all that you're doing.
Okay, so that's Gene Wood. And, you know, we just finished that a couple of weeks ago. It's very simple, right? But it's one way that you can go about establishing thought leadership or credibility for who you say you are. It's the branding effort there, yeah? Okay, well, you guys, that winds it up for this evening. I wanted to get this out to you as soon as possible. I look forward to seeing you guys on Monday night next week at Whittier. As some of you guys have been doing, feel free to, you know, text or, you know, give me a shout, whatever. I'm happy to help you and address any issues that you might have as we're going forward. Have a great rest of your week. See you next week. Take care. Bye now.